Okay, in our last video, we talked about how to take these input boxes and get information from the user and put them into these cells. And you can see, if you remember, that we said we want to put them all in this row 21, right? So if we run our thing, so what's the date? 7, 10, 20, 20. How much do we win? And you can see it put it in there, right? So now let's say I wanted to do it again. And let's say I played the next day. I hit run. So I do 7, 11, 20, 20, 50, 200 again, we'll say. You can see there's a problem here because it just overwrote the last one I did, right? So that's no good. So while we can write code to put something in these cells, this is called an absolute reference. And if you remember, we talked last time about variables. You always want to think about the things that are going to change, and then can we define those as variables? And the one thing we didn't make a variable was the cell we were going to put this stuff in, right? So we want to make that a variable too. So this video is pretty simply going to show you how to go to the end of a range. Like, we're going to say this is my used range, and we want to go to the next open cell, basically. Okay? So that means we want to make this a variable too. So we're going to say dim. We're going to say first open column, or sorry, row. It might not like first open, because for sometimes is a statement you use, so we're just going to call it first row. First empty row. How about that? Fir. Sounds like we're a bunch of rednecks. All right. And then this is going to be a range. So now we're going to make fir equals, and I was going to type this wrong on purpose so you could see the error, but I'll do it right first. So we got to set fir as, so we want to start with this column, and then we want to go down to the first row. So this column is column A, or the first column. So we're going to say cells 1, 1. So the first column down, or the first row down, the first column over. But we could have also called this range A1. Either one would have been fine. And then we're going to type end. And then we're going to type XL down. All right. Now, it didn't automatically finish that because we're setting this as a variable, but we could also, if we didn't want to make it a variable, we could have just typed cells 1. Now you see how it's trying to automatically have me fill it in here, default row, and so you understand what's kind of happening here. The fact that row index is bold means that's what it's asking me for right now. As soon as I hit comma, it's going to make that bold. So it's telling me what's the row index, what's the column index. So that's just, when you see it do that, the thing that it bolds is the thing that you're supposed to be filling in at that moment. And then we'll type end. Oops. XL down. Dot select. I'm not sure why it's supposed to autofill me there, but it didn't. Let's see if it worked. Maybe I did something wrong. Yeah, no, it worked. All right. So you can see it took me to this last row. So let me, maybe it, maybe it wasn't doing it because I was in break mode. Let's try this again. Cells 1.int. That's weird. It's not. Normally it would give me the prompts. But anyway, there's 4 options you can do. Excel up, dot select, and if you type that, we're just going to go back into break mode here. You can see it goes all the way to the top. We can type Excel to left, and I'm going to select over here just so you can kind of see what happens. So if we type that, it goes to my 1.1 and goes to the immediate left. So this would be kind of odd. Let's say, because that's already this is already the top and left, but let's say I was working in 1.5, so that's 1 down, 5 over here, and I had this line. It takes me all the way. Oh no, it took me to the left of cell 1. Sorry. Wait a minute, Excel to right. Go back. Oh, and that took me all the way to the end of time. So let's go back. Oops. But you can see you have those 4 options there, right? So in this case, though, we want it to do the last. So Excel down. So if we type that, it's going to go to this last column that's used. But we don't want this one. We want one below it, right? So after this dot, we would type offset 1, 0. Dot select. So now we're saying of this, I'm going to here, and then I'm going all the way to the end down from here, and then I'm going to offset down in 1 and to the right none. So if I'm up here, no matter where I'm at, if I run this, and I'm hitting F8 each time in case you forgot to go to the next line, it took me to that. Okay? So now we can just take all that without the select part and then copy it here. Right? Okay, so now what we've done is we've taken this variable fir and we've set it as cells 1.1 Excel down offset by another one. All right, and if you wanted to make sure, like let's say you wanted to test it, like we're in break mode right now, I could just put fir dot select because I defined it now, so I don't have to go and write all that junk. I could just set it and then select it, and you can see it took me down there, right? So now we said, okay, now the reason why fir helps us, not only did it take us to this, but we can use that variable going forward because we've set it. So we know fir is our first unused row. So now we want, or first unused column, sorry. So now we want the first thing to just be there. So now we're going to make fir equal to my variable that I made dp. And then the next one over is going to be fir dot offset, and you can see it's trying to fill it in for me. If you see it going to fill in like that, and you get to the one you want, so go back if I type that. See, it's giving me all these options, and you can see there's a lot of them. But fir dot offset, when I start type, offset's the first one that comes up under O. If I just hit the tab, it's going to fill it in for me. And then we're going to type in that it's going to be offset. It's not going to go down any further, but it's going to go, sorry, 1 to the right equals PO. And then, because we're lazy, we can copy this, paste it here, and this is going to be offset by 2, and then this is going to be offset by 3. Now this one is a little more interesting, but we can still do it. For this is up 1, right? Because this is 20, where fur is going to be 21. So we're going to do offset -1, and it's over 4 from where fur is, because fur is in column 1 and this is column 4. So 4 minus 1 is 3. All right. So now, at no point during any of this are we defining the same cell every time. The cell is a variable, and we're defining that variable. We're saying go to the next empty one and type it. So now if we run it, what was the date? 7/11/2020. $50. Let's say I lost this time. Oh, it didn't. What did it not do? Oh, I put it in the wrong place. You can see that here. I'm going to delete that out. I meant to make that a 3, and I typed 2 by accident. Okay, let's run it again. 7/12/2020. What did I do? Cost me 50. Say I want 100. Boom. You can see it filled it out, right? So now if I hit run again for the next date, we'll say I played on the 14th. 50. Oops. 200. All right, so it will just keep going. So that's variables sort of in a nutshell. And when you're writing code, you always want to think about that. If this code I'm writing, if there's something that's going to change each time I run it, then I should make that thing a variable. So always think about that when you're writing code. And this is just one way of doing variables, but it's really important when you think about writing code that you're always thinking about using variables as opposed to absolute references, because invariably those absolute references are going to cause you problems down the road. So anyway, that's today's lesson about variables and why I should use them.